Welcome to Unleashing Happiness, the podcast where I teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and actually change your life. Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I'm your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and I'm so happy that you're here on this beautiful Wednesday morning. I am out in Colorado, and it has been really, really chilly lately. I get up pretty early to film these episodes. It's a nice, quiet time of my day in my household, and so I like to get these episodes done in the morning hours, and it is just cold and chilly outside, and there's just something about that makes me feel good. I think because I'm able to snuggle up and be cozy and put on warm clothing and sit by the fireplace. And there's just something really lovely with that. And that kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about today. And that's being able to refocus on the good things when maybe you wake up not in a great mood. When you've created these habits for yourself, but you still wake up kind of cranky or focusing on things that you don't want to focus on. And admittedly, that is how I have woken up the past couple days. Sometimes I just find myself in a little bit of a funk where I wake up, and even though I have these habits that I've been working on for quite a while to focus my mind on what I want to focus on when I wake up, I still have those days that I wake up and I'm just kind of cranky. There may be a person who's not showing up for me the way that I thought that they would, or the way that I would like them to, or an event that is not going my way. And even with the practices of coming back to my internal feelings and making sure that I'm focused on myself, there's still times that that's going to affect me. There's still times that I'm going to have emotions around that my feelings are going to be hurt, or that I'm going to wake up essentially on the wrong side of the bed sometimes for who knows why. These moments are going to happen. I think even the more that you focus and work on these habits and these techniques and working on your own emotional intelligence and regulation, you're still going to have days that you're just upset, or that you're not happy with the way something is going, and you're struggling to kind of figure out how to get yourself back. And that's the point of learning all of these things, like the emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, becoming curious with yourself, focusing on your daily joys, learning how to lean into the way that you feel internally, because this allows you to shift your perception. It allows you to make a choice of your focus, where you're going to focus, the way you're going to focus, and what you're going to feel and continue to dwell in. And it's quite remarkable how quickly now, compared to times in my past, I'm able to shift my day. I don't allow those feelings to steer the ship for the way that my day is going to go. Just because I wake up feeling that way does not mean that I have to continue my life in that way. It doesn't mean that the day is done and that I'm not able to change it or refocus or make a decision that I'm going to focus on something else, that I'm going to allow my perception to see the great things that are happening that day instead. And a lot of this comes down to the daily joys. So turning on the fireplace and brewing my cup of coffee to get ready to come film this episode is one of my favorite things to do. So when I'm getting these episodes ready and I'm filming them, I really find joy in that. I like sharing with people. I like doing the episodes. I like having this content out. I enjoy the fact that it's chilly outside and I get to be cozy inside my house. And I'm very thankful for the warmth that I have in my house. And I'm thankful for the fireplace, because the home that I had before, although it's something small and definitely a first world problem, I understand, I didn't have a fireplace, and it's something that I really love and I really enjoy. And I like having my mornings set up where I have a cup of coffee and the fireplace is on and my dog is snuggling with me, and I get to decide, the information that I'm going to share that day, or I get to decide which pieces of content I'm going to work on that day. And that completely reshifts my mindset and the things that I'm focused on. And so I really wanted to talk about that and tie it into the 7-Day Mental Diet by Emmet Fox and talk a little bit about that as well. I recently had a conversation with Tim Grimes, who is the author of The Law of Attraction Simplified, as well as many other books. You can actually find him and his books on Amazon. But we recently had a conversation regarding persistence, and the 7-Day Mental Diet came up in that conversation. And we talked about the ways to use that mental diet and to use it for your persistency in a desired outcome and being the ideal person that you'd like to be. And it kind of stemmed a lot more thoughts for me on the ways to use that in your life practically, especially if you struggle in the same ways that I have struggled with the 7-Day Mental Diet. And then also ways to provide forgiveness to yourself and not beat yourself up when you have those days that don't go well, or you have those days that you're really struggling with your mindset. Because the more that you focus on that struggle and then being frustrated with yourself, that's more that you fall into that cycle, and then you end up making it worse. And I don't want to say that in a way to make you feel worse about it, because I've been there where I am not able, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. I'm not able to pull myself out. And I really struggled for a long time to be able to pull myself out. And the only way that I found that I was able to do it was if I had a physical outlet. And I mean physical as in speech outlet. I wanted to tell that person how I felt. And this is something that I definitely still struggle with today. I don't like not sharing with somebody else what I'm feeling. But I am now learning how to make a decision on what I want to share. But I've made the decisions now that it's important for me to take a moment to step back and make sure that I am calm and regulated before I go talk about something. I still have my personal boundaries. I still am going to communicate with others. I don't like to not communicate with people, but I'm also making a decision about when I'm going to do that and in which way. I want to make sure that when I communicate with somebody, it is not so emotionally triggered, and I'm able to be thoughtful in what I'm sharing and the needs and the boundaries that I'm sharing, that they're able to actually hear those needs and it doesn't just escalate into something. And that also goes for me venting to a friend. It's one thing to reach out to a friend because you want to have some solutions for an issue that you're having. You want somebody to bounce something off of. I do not believe in not talking about conditions, and I'll get into that a little bit more in this episode. But I also believe that we have decisions that we can make on how we're going to focus and what we want our perception to be. And we're able to shift our states, we're able to shift our identity, and we're able to enjoy life more because of the things that we're focused on and where we're dwelling. But it's not coming from a place of beating yourself up because of the position that you're in now. That's not going to shift your state. That's actually going to keep you where you are now. So the key is kind of learning these tools to make sure that you're focused in the way that you want to be focused, and that you're focused on the things that you want to be focused on. And some of that comes into using something like a 7-day mental diet to kind of check yourself as you go throughout your day and the week. If you do the full 7 days, of checking where your thoughts are and where you continue to dwell. From what I found, it looks like it was printed back in 1935. That was the original publication date from my understanding. And it still is so stellar. And it's so amazing when you're able to do it. And I'm going to read parts of it out in this episode, and you can definitely find versions of it online. It is a relatively short chapter, but it was so profound to me the first time that I found it, because if you're a follower of Neville Godard, he talks a lot about your moods and where you're dwelling and making a choice in what you're focusing on. But it was also a struggle for me to figure out how to do that. And the cycle that I fell into, and that I have found a lot of my clients also fall into, is that you start to focus on the wrong thing. And then when you try to force yourself to focus on the quote unquote right thing, or focus on your desired outcome, you get frustrated with yourself. You end up in this cycle of being upset because you can't figure out how to refocus. And then maybe you spend a day really focused on your desired outcome, and you're feeling good and you're kind of on top of the world. And the next morning you wake up and it's a crap day. Something happens when you first get out of bed. You go to leave to drive to work and you need to change your tire, or your headlight is out, and it seems like things just pile up, and it's like, what the heck? Like, this is so frustrating. And then you kind of start over, and you may start in the same cycle. Or if you are looking and desiring love in your life, and you wake up and you go and check your phone right away, and you see that you don't have a message that you had really expected or wanted to receive from someone else, now this external event is creating a cycle in your life, in your day, to kind of not go the way that you want it to go. And that can be really frustrating. And part of the struggle is that when you're learning about these tools, you may get upset with yourself that you're not focusing the way that you want to. And all that it means is that you have not created the habit within your own mind. You have not been able to set up a new routine for yourself. So you're just falling back into the old one. It's like killing off of the old man that's talked about a lot. When you are trying to change your state, but you're trying to do it with such force, and you're trying to do it from a place of desperate need, you're actually continuing that cycle. And trust me, I know how frustrating that can be. And the 7-day mental diet, when you figure out how to use this well in your life, and not in a way that creates a spiral for yourself, it can have very profound changes within your life. You can see things happening very quickly, and it can really be a bit overwhelming at the changes that can happen, and how you'll feel, and the things that you notice in the world around you, and the perception that you have and what you're focusing on. It's quite beautiful. And part of why I bring that up is because when I first started trying to do the 7-day mental diet, it was like it was the opposite effect for me. I would instead find myself mentally fighting with myself to try to remain focused. And it was the most infuriating thing, and it just never worked out well for me. And it always ended up being this really frustrating cycle until I started to break it up a little bit differently and look at it in the framework of a habit loop. So remember, a habit starts with a cue, you fall into your routine, and then you get some sort of reward. It can be a physical reward, that you feel more relaxed, that you feel more calm, that you actually receive something. Or it can be a psychological reward of the relaxation that you get from like getting kind of a dopamine hit, or getting a response back that you want. Or it can be something as simple as you've now received the same comfort response. So what I mean by that is that if you are in a cycle of something that you're like, this is not what I want, this is not how I want things to go, but you keep finding yourself doing the same habit, it's because you're comfortable in what you're doing. You're comfortable receiving this response back. And sometimes when we self-sabotage, what we're finding is that we are actually creating a fake control over our life. So if you self-sabotage, often you'll find that when you dig into it, it's because you are a little scared of what change may be to come. And so you're continuing to stay where you are and where you're comfortable. And it creates this false sense of control for you, because then at that point, you have control over what's happening to yourself. You can say, I'm familiar with this. This is something that I'm comfortable with. So I'm going to stay here. A lot of times though, this can be frustrating because when I talk to clients about this, they'll say, well, I don't want to stay here. I'm like, you may not want to, but you are comfortable here. You are continuing this. And this is going back to talking about the conditions in your life. So when I've worked with folks or they've started my courses, they'll come back and say, well, I know I'm not supposed to talk about XYZ, but I really want to tell you what happened. I really want to tell you what's going on. Well, the reason that you want to talk about it is because you're still in the state and the identity where this is a huge focus of yours. This is where your perception is lying. This is where you are dwelling. This is a state that you're in, is that you are so focused on it that you feel this desire to share with somebody how you got to this point. And I can tell you, not only from my own experience, but in talking to so many other people, that when you start to shift your state, this desire, this need to kind of share this whole backstory or the conditions that you're in, it naturally falls away. And that's what we're working towards, is the natural falling away of this need and this desire, because you're shifting your state. All of your habits, all of the things that you do are compelled, meaning that you are compelled to do something. And it is definitely tied to the state that you're in. And it can actually highlight what state you're in for you. So if you're kind of like, well, I think that I'm persisting in being really loved and cherished, but yet your compelled behaviors are against that, that's not really the state that you're in. And it's all about being curious about yourself, leaning into asking questions. And that's what I found is the great thing with the 7-day mental diet. If you do it from the idea of being curious about yourself, really leaning into asking yourself questions, then from my experience and the experience of others that I've shared this with, you will start to shift the way that you're thinking about your own thoughts. You'll stop allowing these knee-jerk reaction thoughts to create the rest of your day, or to allow you to feel internally a specific way about yourself because of an external event. There are things about yourself that are so core to your identity that someone could not shake those. So me being a mother, there could not be somebody coming up to me and telling me that I'm not a mom. That would be absurd to me. I wouldn't even pay them any attention. There could be even somebody who came to me and said that I was not a good mom and that I don't have a great relationship with my kids. And I would honestly not even pay them any mind, because I would know that they are just wrong. There's no way that you could shake that piece of identity to me. You could not ruffle my feathers when it came to that, because I know that is core to my identity of who I am. And so therefore I would just find it absolutely absurd and ridiculous that somebody would say that, but absurd and ridiculous to the point that I would not pay them any mind. And that's how we want to get on other areas of our identity. And that can be things like being loved by another person, being cherished, being smart and respected at work, anything, being fit and healthy. If you were in the best shape of your life and you felt absolutely amazing, and somebody came up to you and made a comment about how out of shape you were and how you couldn't do, you couldn't run a mile. If you were in the best shape of your life, you would not pay attention to them. That would not bother you in any kind of way, because you would be so confident and so sure of this identity that you are, that it wouldn't really matter to you what they think. And that's not to say that we would not have moments of being unsure or uncertain, right? There's definitely times where I've questioned, am I doing the right thing with my kids? Did I handle that in the best way that I possibly could? That's on growth. That's not on me questioning my identity or considering that I'm not a good mother. I can be confident in me as a good mom and as the fact that I have this really great relationship with my children, and still consider there's ways that I could be better. Still consider there's things that I could work on or better ways to handle a specific event. So that's what you're working towards when you're looking to change a state and you're looking to focus on your own perception. And these key moments, these like key knowledge points of like your emotional intelligence and emotional regulation and the way that you're dwelling and the way that you speak to yourself and the forgiveness that you provide yourself and to others really comes into play in this. And this is how you start to shift a state. This is the way that you can take a step back, and instead of looking at this external thing that you want, that you're trying to decide on, you can instead decide on a state feeling. And that's why I go back to the questions that I'm always recommending that people start with. If you're trying to identify what it is that you want in life and where it is that you want to go, you need to consider what your desired outcome is. And if you're going back and forth on, well, I don't know if I want X or if I want Y, then you need to start to consider how you would want to feel instead. So you can ask yourself the questions of, if you knew you only had 1 year left to live, what is something that you would start doing? If you knew you only had 1 year left to live, what is something that you would stop doing? And how do you want to feel when you go to bed at night? I ask myself that question repeatedly throughout the day. How do I want to feel when I go to bed tonight? And then I consider whatever I'm doing in that moment right now, is that aligned to that feeling? The more that you can create the habit of asking yourself this question, and I guess those two questions, how do I want to feel when I go to bed at night? And is my current behavior right now aligned with that feeling? The more that you're able to just stop asking yourself questions freezes your brain, right? So if you're upset and you're going down a path that you don't want to, asking those questions, your brain's like, whoa, wait a minute. I got to consider something else now. And you start to focus on something else. It's the same way that you can use a technique called the name it, tame it. So if you're feeling a very elevated emotion and you're struggling to calm yourself down, definitely do a breathing technique to kind of check yourself, stop yourself where you are. Sometimes what I'll do, especially if it's highly emotionally charged, is I'll set a timer. I'll tell my phone to set a 5-minute timer, and I will do breathing and like walking for 5 minutes. So even if I have to walk in a circle because I'm inside, I will spend those 5 minutes focusing only on my breathing. So I'll start with a breathing exercise to calm myself down, which is taking a very big, deep breath in through your nose. At the top of that breath, take another quick little breath in. It'll feel like your lungs have no room left for air. Hold that for a moment and slowly release it through your mouth. Do that a couple times, really focusing on where you feel that breath. When you first start it, don't worry about it. Just do it to calm down. Don't worry about where you're focusing. Just do it to calm down. It will immediately calm you. Then take some time to ask yourself what emotion you're feeling. So as you're walking and you are breathing and you're like focusing on where this air is coming in, ask yourself, what is the emotion that I'm feeling? What am I going through right now? What do I feel? The more that you can start to learn how to name your emotions, the more that you'll calm yourself and you'll be able to look at what's going on in a different light so that you can figure out the way that you want to handle it next. What is the communication then that you want to fall into? And that really goes back to making sure that you know your boundaries, the boundaries that you've set in a healthy way for yourself, and the way that you're going to communicate those to whatever's happening, whether it's a colleague that has really upset you, if it's a stranger at the store, your spouse, your sibling, your parent, whatever it is, having these tools of calming yourself, then deciding how you're going to communicate your needs in that moment is really key to making sure that you stay focused and that you're on track and that you're not lashing out and then having regrets with the way that you dealt with something. So I did want to read part of Emmet Fox's The 7-Day Mental Diet. This is actually directly from it. And he says, the most important of all factors in your life is the mental diet on which you live. It is the food which you furnish to your mind that determines the whole character of your life. It is the thoughts you allow yourself to think, the subjects that you allow your mind to dwell upon, which make you and your surroundings what they are. As thy days, so shall thy strength be, which in modern language may be translated to, as thy thoughts, so shall thy life be. Everything in your life today, the state of your body, whether you are sick or healthy, the state of your fortune, the state of your home, the present condition of every phase of your life is in fact entirely conditioned by the thoughts and feelings which you have entertained in the past and by the habitual tone of your past thinking. And the condition of your life tomorrow and next week and next year will be entirely conditioned by the thoughts and feelings which you choose to entertain from now onward. In other words, you choose your life. That is to say, you choose all the conditions of your life. When you choose the thoughts upon which you allow your mind to dwell, thought is the real cause force in life, and there is no other. You cannot have one kind of mind and another kind of environment. This means that you cannot change your environment while leaving your mind unchanged, nor, and this is the supreme key to life and the reason for this pamphlet, can you change your mind without your environment changing too. Then this is the real key to life. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. Your body must change. Your daily work or other activities must change. Your home must change. The color tone of your whole life must change. For whether you be habitually happy or cheerful or low-spirited and fearful depends entirely on the quality of the mental food upon which you diet yourself. Please be very clear about this. If you change your mind, your conditions must change too. We are transformed by the renewing of our minds. So now you will see that your mental diet is really the most important thing in your entire life. And I must say that I completely agree. Although when you find yourself attempting to change this mental diet that you have and where you're dwelling with force or by beating yourself up and putting yourself down, that's not the way to go about it. So if you would like to do a little challenge with me, I want to spend the next week from today, starting on November 1st through the next 7 days to do the mental diet. If you are going to join me on this, please shoot me a note. You can email me at unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. Or if you're listening on YouTube, just leave a comment below and let me know that you're going to do it as well, just by typing a yes or let's do this, and we can do this together. And part of doing this, though, is to, especially if you struggle in the ways I talked about before, is to break it up into smaller sections. And I'm going to do a smaller video, shorter video on YouTube about this like challenge as well. So you'll probably see that if you're listening to this via my YouTube channel, you may see this as well later, either today or tomorrow. But I want to encourage everyone to focus on the 7-day mental diet, but in a little bit of a different way than you may have heard before, or if you go find the PDF or a YouTube version of the full pamphlet that you may find. I want you to first ask yourself the questions that I mentioned before. If you had 1 year left to live, what would you start doing? If you had 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing? Really spend some time today before you embark on the 7-day mental diet answering those questions for yourself. I recommend writing it down. You can type it out, but I would get it out of your mind onto some form of sheet of paper. From there, I want you to ask yourself, how do I want to feel when I go to bed tonight? And this is going to be a question that I'm going to recommend you continue to ask yourself. So either put it on a sticky note in a few areas of the house and your car that you'll see repeatedly, or write it on your mirror. There's like crayons that you can like write on glass with, put it somewhere in your kitchen, have it somewhere that it is kind of reminded to you repeatedly throughout the day. How do you want to feel when you go to bed tonight? Then the next question is what I'm currently doing, the routine or the habit that I'm currently in right now, aligned with feeling that way when I go to bed? And this is the way that we're going to shift throughout the mental diet. And if you struggle in the same ways that I have, I want you to break it up by sections. So either say, like, let's say you're getting into the car to drive to work. I will tell myself, I'm going to do the mental diet from now until I get to work. Instead of looking at it as like a 7-day, I just say, I'm going to focus on what I'm dwelling on by repeatedly returning back to my desired outcome, the way I want to feel when I go to bed at night. I don't want you to worry about a specific event because that can be overwhelming. So if you're looking for an idea of like how you want to spend your life, what you want your desired outcome to be, instead really bring it back to these feelings right now, really bring it back to the way that you want to feel when you go to bed, not a specific event, at least for this challenge and this kind of exercise that we're going to be doing. It is key to understand that this does not mean that you will not have bad thoughts or negative thoughts or unwanted thoughts pop up. The key is what you decide to dwell in. And so we're going to make a choice for the next 7 days that we are going to dwell in the feeling that we want to feel when we go to bed at night. And that's the choice. It's not that these thoughts are never going to come up, or that you're never going to have something that's frustrating or annoys you, or that you couldn't be driving to work while you were doing this and somebody cut you off and you're like, what the heck? Why'd you cut me off? Like, and got frustrated by that. The key is that we're going to continually go back to asking ourselves, how do I want to feel when I go to bed tonight? Is this aligned to that feeling? And you'll just continue to come back to that. And then use those tools that I mentioned earlier. So if you are upset, you're struggling with something, you're going to do your breathing technique, you're going to name your emotion, you're going to physically move yourself. Physically moving your body is a great way to break up a spiral that you're in. So either get up and do a couple jumping jacks, run in place, go for a walk outside, do some push-ups, whatever it is, make a choice and make a plan that if you are finding yourself unable to break this, you're going to do these physical activities. Your breathing activity, you're going to name your emotion, and you're going to do something physical to break kind of where your mind is. And then you're going to start asking yourself questions. Why do I feel this way? Is it aligned with who I want to be? How do I want to feel when I go to bed tonight? Why am I choosing to make these changes in my life? And whatever other questions you find are important to you and help you get back on track. I do have a PDF version of the 7-day mental diet that I found online. I'll link that down below as well. And again, I'll also link my conversation with Tim. That was really fantastic. I always love going on his channel. Tim has been a friend of mine for a while now, and one that I love having these conversations with because we are very similar, aligned to our beliefs of kind of how this works and the way that you can get it to work practically for yourself, and the ways that you can learn how to focus on the right thing, how to persist in actually the feeling that you want to have versus thinking that you're persisting in a desired outcome, but instead you're really just creating the same cycle over and over. So I hope you found this beneficial. I will be back next week. And when I come back next week, we can talk about how the 7-day mental diet went. I would love to hear from you while you're doing it. I definitely hope that you'll join me. If you're not ready yet and you need some more time, totally get it. But the PDF will be down below so you can kind of review what it is and see how this could make changes in your life as well. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful rest of your week. If it is cold where you are, I hope that you are snuggled up and warm. And if it is hot where you are, I hope that you have fans and are feeling amazing and get some time at the beach. I will be back next week. Thank you again for joining me today. If you'd like to learn more about all things going on with me, go ahead and visit my website at ceciliahendricks.com.